Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Amirul Adam, and today our group will present to you about the SUKUK market. And this presentation is prepared for Dr. Muhammad Hasif. And below is the list of our presenters.
1.0 Introduction. Malaysia's primary sukuk market is presently one of the world's fastest growing, with an average annual growth in issuance of 22% from 2001 to 2007. Malaysia has maintained its pioneering efforts in permitting new structures such as the exchangeable sukuk musyarakah by Khazanah Nasional Berhad, the Malaysian government's investment holding arm, after introducing the world's first global sovereign sukuk in 2002. This is the world's first sukuk to include complete convertibility capabilities, which were previously only seen in traditional equity-linked contracts. Secondary trading in the Malaysian sukuk market has increased in depth and liquidity, with more corporations, including foreign-owned corporations, continuously tapping the market for funding. A significant number of corporate issues have been undertaken to finance long-term funding needs. The wide array and increasing size of sukuk transactions also offer attractive value propositions for investors seeking to diversify their asset portfolios, thus creating a vibrant secondary market. Next is 2.0 definition. A sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate comparable to a bond in Western banking, which complies with Sharia, the Islamic religious law, which means there is no ambiguity, interest, or gambling. It is also relatively new to the financial market. Only a few nations are supporting Islamic banking, and the sukuk market is yet uninstitutionalized. Despite its inherent flaws, the sukuk market has grown to become not just the backbone of Islamic finance, but also the fastest expanding element of the global financial system in general.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Next, we move on to concept of sukuk. Firstly, legal nature of sukuk. All sukuk are forms of equity since they are certificates that grant their holders ownership of an asset or a pool of assets, as well as a claim to its cash flow. In practice, sukuk are classified based on their risk-reward structures and profiles, which possess the characteristic of both debt and equity. This categorization reflects the underlying Sharia contracts employed in their structure as well. Furthermore, not all sukuk are asset-backed. Some are completely asset-backed, but others have restricted degrees of ownership, and still others just related to a pool of reference of collateral assets. The second element in sukuk categorization is the kind of type of asset utilized. Furthermore, sukuk are recognized for their technical and commercial characteristics, which are dependent on the nature of the issuer, the duration of the certificate, the complexity of the structure, and other factors. Okay, next, benefit of sukuk. Sukuk can be useful in the creation of an Islamic market and financial system. The fundamental benefit of sukuk is that it complies with Sharia while raising the standard of living in Islamic countries and strengthening their economy. Sukuk, on the other hand, has a number of additional advantages. Sukuk are an excellent approach to fund a major public and initiative that would otherwise be impossible to fund. Many economic activities or initiatives are out of reach for people, business, or government, as in case of numerous emerging Islamic economies. In these circumstances, sukuk are ideal for financing this initiative without incurring interest-bearing debt. As a result, sukuk is a crucial tool for wealth redistribution and achieving social justice. Sukuk are ideally suited to risk management. Uncertainty is a significant component of investment. Islamic assets can be issued with varied varied levels of risk and income, allowing investors to select the portfolio that best fit their risk management profile. It is vital to remember that risk in Sukuk is more difficult to intentionally manipulate than it is other forms of securities. This is because the value and risk of Sukuk are always connected to genuine assets with proven physical worth rather than fake debt and credit rating manipulation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Next, we move on to concept of Sukuk. Firstly, legal nature of Sukuk. All Sukuk are forms of equity since they are certificates that grant their holders ownership of an asset or a pool of assets, as well as a claim to its cash flow. In practice, Sukuk are classified based on their risk-reward structures and profiles, which possess the characteristic of both debt and equity. This categorization reflects the underlying Sharia contracts employed in their structure as well. Furthermore, not all Sukuk are asset-backed. Some are completely asset-backed, but others have restricted degrees of ownership, and still others just related to a pool of reference of collateral assets. The second element in Sukuk categorization is the kind of type of asset utilized. Furthermore, Sukuk are recognized for their technical and commercial characteristics, which are dependent on the nature of the issuer, the duration of the certificate, the complexity of the structure, and other factors.
Let's have a look to the type of Sukuk. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Haikal Aiman bin Kamaruddin. So let's continue with the type of Sukuk. So the first one is Musyarakah Sukuk. So a Musyarakah contract is a partnership agreement between two or more parties in which a partner contributes to the capital of the partnership in the form of cash or in-kind contribution. So Musyarakah Sukuk are equity-based securities issued to fund commercial activity or to create a new project. So based on their separate share ownership, Sukuk holder assume ownership in the project, and as a result, the buyers are effectively project partners. So profits and losses are then split in the same manners as in Musyarakah contract. Okay, the next one is Murabahah Sukuk. So Murabahah Sukuk is also known as discounted Sukuk. So Murabahah is a sort of sale transaction in which both of the cost of product and the profit on the sale are declared in advance to both parties. So the purchase price, selling price and profit margin are all clearly disclosed at the time of the agreement. Only at maturity do the holders of this contract receive a payout. So the amount returned at the time of expiration in Murabahah Sukuk is supposed to be greater than the principal amount, but this is not clearly stated early on. The next one is Ijarah Sukuk. So Ijarah Sukuk are based on the Islamic lease contract principle. They are also known as fixed payout securities. So the payment share and growth rate are agreed upon from the start. So the main idea of this, holder receive periodic rental payment in exchange of ownership of the underlying asset, and similar to how the lessor receive ijarah payment. Okay, so the next one is Mudarabah Sukuk. So Mudarabah is a contract between two parties, which one providing capital and the other contributing work and talent. So the latter invests the fund in a predetermined activity, granting each party a portion of the earning as determined at the time of investment. So because capital is only given by a party, so the risk of loss is also totally shared by it. So Mudarabah Sukuk, which are based on Mudarabah contract, are variable payout securities. So instead of a specific number, the contract provides a profit sharing ratio. So as a result, the return to holders depends on the issuer's performance. Okay, the next one is Istisna Sukuk. So an istisna sales is an agreement that direct a manufacturer to produce a specified good for the purchaser. So the price and specification of the commodities are defined in advance, as with other Islamic finance contract. So the case of istisna sukuk, the money are used for manufacturing purpose such as commodities or buildings, among other things. So the payment of the holder are made in pre-agreed upon installment. So the final payment includes an additional sum calculated based on the market value of the manufactured item. So the last one is salam sukuk. So salam contract are aimed to providing money for projects by making payments in advance of the transaction. So the agreements are commonly used in the agriculture or mining industries. So in this contract, the financial institution make an advance payment to purchase assets which the seller is obligated to deliver on predetermined date. So the contractual parties stipulate a future date for the supply of goods and specified quantity and quality in exchange for advance payment. So salam sukuk are used to purchase underlying asset under a salam arrangement. So the holder of sukuk certificates have an ownership stake in the asset as well as the right to return proportional to their investment in the underlying salam contract.
A sukuk is an Islamic financial product designed to provide investors with a cash flow comparable to that of a bond. But the differences between those two is in their contractual mechanism, which is because sukuk is a lessee, buyer-seller or partnership relationship. Meanwhile, bond is a lender-borrower connection between holders and issuers. There are a slightly different of sukuk with bond in returns, and it is insignificant, but in the terms of risk, sukuk have a significantly higher risk more than bond. However, even though the sukuk risk is increasing, all of the sukuk investors are not sufficiently rewarded for it. Plus, sukuk's market performance don't have any relation to the performance of bonds market, but the market performance of the industry in which the sukuk finance project originates has a significant effect on sukuk performance. As you can see here, this is some of the sukuk and bond risks that have a slight difference with each other. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. There are various types of risks related to conventional bonds, but some of them also have in sukuk. Okay, so first of all, it's a business or financial risk, which it has a possibility that the bond issuer may default on interest, face value or both. The same risk can happen in the sukuk. However, their remedial methods are quite different. In a conventional bond, bondholders have no choice except to seek payment from the issuer. In the sukuk case, the sukuk holders have recourse to the asset, not to a bankrupted individual. Okay, after that is called risk, and this risk, which is the bondholder, is obligated to sell the outstanding bond back to the bond issuer. When a larger market interest rate arises, conventional bonds are frequently exposed to this danger. This form of risk can only be applied to conventional bond. Okay, third is liquidity risk, and it is a risk that due to a lack of inefficient secondary market, the bond can be sold at a reasonable price and in a reasonable period. The non-tradable sukuk is likewise subject to this sort of risk. For term of characteristic, here are some differences between sukuk and bond. First of all, sukuk claim on asset, ownership and cash flow. Meanwhile, bond claim on a debt instrument. After that, for a return, sukuk can be determined or can be estimated easily, differ with bond because its returns are unpredictable and is predetermined. And last but not least is chances. For sukuk, the chances for its return are not guaranteed, but for bond, the issuer is committed to pay at maturity.
First, we go to the importance of sukuk in developing the Islamic financial market. So, after Islamic banking, sukuk is the second largest component of the Islamic finance industry. It has been championing the Islamic finance industry since the mid-2000s, capturing the attention and interest of a wide range of issuers and investors. It has spread the Islamic financial market to far-off jurisdictions around the world, which sukuk regarded as an important fundraising tool by both Muslim majority and non-Muslim majority countries. So we will go to the importance of sukuk in developing the Islamic financial market. So the first importance is for sukuk is as an asset distribution in various segments of Islamic finance. This is because in the global Islamic finance industry asset across its four main sectors, which is Islamic banking, sukuk, Islamic funds and takaful, sum up to 2.2 trillion as at the end of December 2018. The industry has been charting at a CAGR of 5% since 2012. The ICM, particularly sukuk, has been the fastest growing among all asset classes in the Islamic finance. Islamic banking continued to dominate the industry with 1.657 billion of global assets as at the end of December 2016, representing 75% of the Islamic finance market. It was followed by the sukuk market, with outstanding sukuk accounting to 328 billion at the same date, accounting for 15% of the entire market. However, the Islamic funds asset and takaful contributions still only represent a small percentage of the Islamic finance industry, with a respective 183 billion 8% market share and 40 billion 2% market share. Next, the importance of sukuk in Islamic finance is as an pioneering countries in the sukuk market. So, in Malaysia, the sukuk issued by Shell MDS Malaysia Sdn Bhd in 1990 is widely regarded as the market's first sukuk. It was the first corporate sukuk issued in Malaysia, and it was issued by a non-Muslim company in a Muslim majority country. Malaysia has evolved into a leading centre for sukuk issuance over the years, accounting for a significant share of global issuance. So in other countries, some of the other countries outside the key market have garnered some issue in recent years. This initial sukuk reflect the current market momentum. Although this issuance account for a small portion of the sukuk market, they demonstrate sovereign keen interest in using the ICM to generate funding. Efforts have been made despite the industry existing challenges, such as the lack of a standardized sukuk framework, which make setting up legal structure and legislation in the respective jurisdiction to facilitate sukuk issuance difficult. This may imply a more time-consuming issuance process, a longer time frame, and higher cost when compared to traditional method of raising finance. Next, we will go to the role of sukuk in developing the Islamic finance industry. Sukuk has played as an important role in further developing and expanding the Islamic finance industry. It is the second fastest growing asset class with a CAGR of 5% since 2012. According to data from RAM, it provides issuers with an alternative to syndicated loan financing and bonds to finance the capital expenditure and acquisition. They can tap the ICM to raise alternative funding that is backed by strong investor demand. Similarly, it allows investors who may have previously over-relied on bank deposit and equity to access the ICM and non-equity-like instrument. The following are some ways in which sukuk can further expand the Islamic finance market. First, the issuance of sukuk adds to the diversity of the ICM product, providing further dynamism to the Islamic financial system. Second, sukuk represent an alternative public and corporate debt instrument for funding purpose. Third, for government, sukuk represent an important tool to fund budget deficit, infrastructure and mega project, and other economic development program. For sukuk with shorter tenure can also be used as a tool in the Islamic money market. Fifth, the ability of short-term sukuk can support the launch of Islamic retail banking or financing services in jurisdictions where such services are not available. And last but not least, similarly, the issuance of debut government sukuk can help create pricing benchmark against which all other debt instruments in the same market can be priced. Okay, lastly, for the conclusion, sukuk has now become dominant section of Islamic finance, and they are active in the worldwide market, generating considerable cross-border flows of capital that can be obtained outside domestic market. Along with the hard effort, progress and well-balanced development strategy, every country has the potential to extend the role of Islamic finance in contributing to global economic and financial stability. Sukuk are great investment for investors seeking a set investment return with minimal risk and Sharia compliance. Sukuk should also be issued to fund new commercial and industrial operations. Sukuk is an important and feasible form of Islamic finance for economic and social development. Sukuk are composed of several varieties based on their growth and acceptability over time and around the globe. The rising number of default sukuk, on the other hand, should be a source of concern because it is strongly tied to credit risk. Sukuk issuance must still go through the same rating process as other bonds. Sukuk may be viewed as dependable credit instrument similar to other conventional debt based on this credit rating review. However, even if sukuk are issued in conjunction with asset security, sukuk still face the risk of default, and so the credit is required. So I think that's all. Thank you.
So that's all from us. Thank you for always listening to us, supporting us, and encouraging us. You are a great friend, and I love and appreciate all of you. You are the best. Bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.